It always feels good when you are appreciated. SLT non-stop broadband. Free loyalty data added as you stay connected.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජු රුපියල් 50ට අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
Tonight, neighbourly ties. Indian Premier Narendra Modi presses Sri Lanka to follow through on the 13th Amendment as he holds talks with Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa.
India has always assisted Sri Lanka to enhance our capabilities in intelligence and counter-terrorism.
Double trouble. Novel coronavirus death toll creeps up on SARS death tally as scientists discover another path of transmission. Path to recovery. The International Monetary Fund is optimistic over Sri Lanka's growth in 2020. Sri Lankan wrongs. Former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe suggests demanding compensation from Airbus. All that and much more coming up on First at 9. This Saturday, the 8th of February 2020.
මේ සීන් එකෙන් කට් වෙන්න ඇන්ටිජර්ම් මවුත්වොෂ් සමගින් එන ක්ලෝස් අප් ජෙල් එක ස්ටෝරි එක ස්ටාර්ට් කරන්න.
Hi.
Hi.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammik Eknayaka. Let's start with your local stories. The International Monetary Fund believes that the Sri Lankan economy is on the path of recovery from the Easter Sunday terror attacks of last year. IMF's Chief of Mission for Sri Lanka, Manuela Goretti, led a staff team to the country from the 29th of January to the 7th of February. In an end-of-mission media communique, Goretti said that growth is projected to rebound to 3.7% in 2020 on the back of the recovery in tourism and with minimal negative effects from the novel coronavirus.
In the IMF staff team's end-of-mission statement, Chief of Mission for Sri Lanka, Manuela Goretti, calls for fiscal consolidation, prudent monetary policy and sustained efforts to build international reserves in ensuring macroeconomic stability, given the high level of public debt and refinancing needs in Sri Lanka. It added that Sri Lanka's economy is gradually recovering from last year's Easter Sunday terror attacks, and the recovery is supported by a solid performance of the manufacturing sector and a rebound in tourism and related services in the second half of 2019. While saying the country's real GDP growth is estimated at 2.6% in 2019, Goretti says that growth is projected to rebound to 3.7% this year on the back of the recovery in tourism and on the assumption that the novel coronavirus will only have limited negative effects on tourist arrivals and other economic activities. The statement went on to say that inflation is projected to remain at around 4.5%, in line with the central bank's target, adding that the current account deficit is expected to widen to nearly 3% of GDP this year, after a sharper import contraction in 2019. What's more, the primary deficit could widen further to 1.9% of GDP in 2020 due to newly implemented tax cuts and exemptions, clearance of domestic arrears and backloaded capital spending from 2019. It also highlights renewed efforts to advance fiscal consolidation as essential for macroeconomic stability, given risks to debt sustainability and large refinancing needs over the medium term. The statement also insists that the central bank should stand ready to adjust rates to evolving macroeconomic conditions. It also calls for renewed efforts to rebuild reserve buffers to safeguard resilience to shocks under a flexible exchange rate. The IMF says that Sri Lanka's financial system remains broadly stable despite some pockets of vulnerability, especially among non-bank financial institutions. Caps on lending rates and the loan repayment moratorium for small and medium enterprises is encouraged to be temporary to avoid unintended distortions and inefficiencies in financial intermediation. Modernizing the Banking Act is also encouraged to help safeguard financial stability.
Now, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa and Indian Premier Narendra Modi today deliberated on ties between the two nations and resolved to further deepen anti-terror cooperation and boost trade and investment ties. Prime Minister Rajapaksa is currently in India on a 4-day official visit. Now, during the joint media briefing, Premier Modi stressed on the implementation of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution in meeting the Tamil community's expectations for equality, justice, peace and respect within a united Sri Lanka. Furthermore, Premier Modi highlighted that Sri Lanka's stability, security and prosperity are not only in the interest of India, but also vital for the entire Indian Ocean region.
Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa arrived in India yesterday to a 4-day official visit upon a request by his Indian counterpart Narendra Modi. Prime Minister Rajapaksa was officially welcomed by Indian Premier Modi at the Rashtrapati Bhavan today. They also held a joint media briefing.
सबसे पहले तो मैं अपने मित्र महिंद्र राजपक्ष को प्रधानमंत्री बनने के लिए हृदय से बधाई देता हूं।
First of all, I heartily congratulate my friend Mahinda Rajapaksa for becoming Prime Minister. Immediately after assuming office, he accepted my invitation and chose India for his first foreign tour. I am thankful to him for this. The history of our relationship has been woven with countless colourful threads like culture, religion, spirituality, art and language. Whether it is security or economy or social progress, our past and our future are connected to each other in every region. Stability, security and prosperity in Sri Lanka are not only in interest of India, but also in the interest of the entire Indian Ocean region, and therefore our close cooperation is valuable for peace and prosperity even in the Indo-Pacific region. In line with our government's Neighbourhood First policy and Sagar doctrine, we attach special priority to relations with Sri Lanka. We welcome Sri Lankan government's resolve to work with India for regional security and development. Today, Prime Minister Rajapaksa and I discussed in detail all aspects of our bilateral relations and international issues of mutual interest. And so, in our conversation today, we discussed further our cooperation against terrorism. I'm happy that Sri Lanka police officers have started participating in anti-terrorism courses in India's premier training institutes. We are also committed to further strengthening the contacts and cooperation between the agencies of the two countries. In today's conversation, we discussed joint economic projects in Sri Lanka and also on enhancing economic, business and investment relations. We also discussed increasing our people-to-people connectivity, promoting tourism and improving connectivity. The recent direct flight between Chennai and Jaffna is part of our efforts in this direction. This direct flight will increase connectivity options for the Tamil population of the northern region of Sri Lanka, and it will also be beneficial for the economic and social development of the region. India has been a trusted partner in Sri Lanka's development efforts. The new lines of credit announced last year will give more strength to our development cooperation. Prime Minister Rajapaksa and I discussed the humanitarian issue of fishermen. This theme directly affects the livelihood of the people of both countries, and therefore we agreed to continue constructive and humanitarian approach on this issue. In Sri Lanka, we spoke openly on issues related to reconciliation. I am confident that the government of Sri Lanka will realise the expectations of the Tamil people for equality, justice, peace and respect within a united Sri Lanka. For this, it will be necessary to carry forward the process of reconciliation with the implementation of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution of Sri Lanka.
13वें संशोधन को लागू करने के साथ-साथ रिकंसिलिएशन की प्रक्रिया को आगे ले जाया जाए.
I am very pleased to be here in New Delhi, undertaking my first official visit abroad since assuming office as the Prime Minister. Prime Minister Modi and I discussed several important issues this morning. Our discussions were based on the outcome of the discussions that the Prime Minister held with the President Gotabaya Rajapaksa during his very successful state visit to India. We agree that our cooperation is multifaceted, with the priority given to a number of areas, including security, economy, culture, and social sectors. India has always assisted Sri Lanka to enhance our capabilities in intelligence and counterterrorism, and we look forward to continued support in this regard. I would like to reiterate what the President Gotabaya Rajapaksa said during his state visit. We have had to rethink our national security strategies, and assistance from India in this regard would be much appreciated. I thank the Prime Minister for visiting Sri Lanka of the Easter Sunday terrorist attack. That visit provided us with immense strength to come to terms with the tragedy. We also appreciate the Prime Minister Modi's offer of $400 million as a credit line to enhance the economy of Sri Lanka, and another $50 million credit line for our efforts in combating terrorism. We discussed how to follow up on these offers that were made during President Rajapaksa's visit in November. And the topic of our discussions was the progress of ongoing projects that are being implemented in Sri Lanka with Indian assistance. I request the Prime Minister Modi to consider further assistance to expand the housing project to all parts of the island. Doing so will provide significant benefits to many Sri Lankans living in rural parts of the country. Prime Minister and I also discussed how Sri Lanka and India could work together in economically important matters. I discussed with the Prime Minister how Sri Lanka could benefit out of certain economic sectors where India is strongly positioned. I request India's assisted skill development and capacity building of the civil service. Before I conclude, I would like to reiterate our invitation to the Prime Minister Modi to visit Sri Lanka in the near future. I'm indeed happy to be here because India is our closest neighbor as well as our long-standing friend.
Now, it's been almost 2 decades since a coronavirus known as SARS emerged in China, killing over 750 people across the world, sparking panic. The number of deaths caused by the novel coronavirus, which threatens to engulf the world, is galloping towards the 2003 SARS death toll, as 86 deaths were added to the tally overnight, exceeding yesterday's record of 73. This places the official number of overall deaths at 722. What's more, scientists now believe that the digestive tract may also be a secondary path of transmission for the novel coronavirus.
Chinese authorities have now placed the number of deaths caused by the novel coronavirus at 722, which is a significant jump from yesterday's tally of 636. The overnight number of 86 deaths is the highest overnight tally so far since the virus outbreak's inception and represents close to 12% of the total deaths. The total number of infections across China, meanwhile, has now reached 34,546.
Please sit down.
The outbreak prompted several governments to ban arrivals from China, urging their citizens to avoid travelling to the country, while some recommended that their citizens leave China. Some major airlines have also suspended flights to and from China. The city of Wuhan, the epicenter of the novel coronavirus outbreak, has now opened another makeshift hospital for patients diagnosed with the virus, equipped with 1,500 beds. The first medical team has arrived at the Laishanshan Hospital in virus-hit city, and patients will be admitted. The Health Ministry of Japan meanwhile said 3 new virus cases had been confirmed on the Diamond Princess cruise ship docked in Yokohama, raising the total number to 64. The ministry said of the 3, 2 were Americans and 1 was a Chinese national. The quarantined vessel has around 3,700 people on board, and by today, tests are conducted on a total 279 passengers and crew members. In the meantime, scientists say that the digestive tract may be a secondary path of transmission for the novel coronavirus, following the publication of the latest study reporting patients with abdominal symptoms and loose stool. The primary path is believed to be virus-laden droplets from an infected person's cough or sneeze, though researchers in early cases have said they focused heavily on patients with respiratory symptoms and may have overlooked those linked to the digestive tract. World Health Organization representative in Beijing today called for vigilance during the coronavirus outbreak in China rather than crystal ball gazing.
The outbreak of the coronavirus represents a new source of uncertainty. It is still too early to tell what the impact is going to be, but the SARS outbreak in 2003 may provide a guide. On that occasion, there was quite a sharp slowing in output growth in China for a few months before a sharp bounce back as the outbreak was controlled and the Chinese introduced economic stimulus measures. Today, though, China is a larger part of the global economy and it's more closely integrated with other economies, including Australia. So I think it's quite likely that the international spillovers will be larger than they were back in 2003 with SARS. If the infection rate comes down quickly, then I think it'll stabilise and we bounce back. But if the infection rate does not come down quickly and the number of cases are kind of doubling every 4 days, the Chinese authorities presumably will have to kind of tighten up further on movement of people, movement of goods, movement of services.
Meanwhile, Royal Caribbean Cruises say it would ban guests holding China, Hong Kong or Macau passports from boarding its ships. Guests or crew members who have travelled to, from or through mainland China, Hong Kong or Macau or been in contact with anyone who has less than 15 days before sailing will not be allowed to board the company's ships under the new rules. The company would also screen guests with flu-like symptoms and those who are unsure if they had been in contact with individuals who had visited any of the 3 locations in the past 15 days. As fears of the virus spreading further continue to linger, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said that the country will offer up to $100 million to China and other impacted countries to combat the coronavirus. U.S. President Donald Trump, meanwhile, has said that China is doing a very professional job in combating the virus. Trump said he had discussed the crisis with Chinese President Xi Jinping in a very good phone call late on Thursday and added that the US and China were working together on the issue. Meanwhile, anxious Singapore shoppers formed long lines at grocery stores and cleared the shelves of essential items after the city-state raised its alert level over China's coronavirus outbreak. Singapore, which has reported 33 cases, raised its alert level yesterday to orange, the same as during the deadly 2003 SARS outbreak.
Please sit down.
Meanwhile, Dr. Sudat Samaraveera, chief epidemiologist of the Ministry of Health, stated that although the Chinese national who was infected with the coronavirus in Sri Lanka has been fully recovered, she is still being kept at the Infection Diseases Hospital under medical supervision. 14 people with suspected coronavirus symptoms are currently receiving treatment at several hospitals around the country. Meanwhile, a religious event to invoke blessings upon the victims of the coronavirus was conducted under the patronage of Most Venerable Kotugoda Dhammavasa Thera at Dharmapala Ramaya Temple in Mount Lavinia yesterday.
We'll be back after this short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. This is First at 9. Now, yesterday it was revealed in Parliament that the former government had splashed 2.8 billion rupees on luxury vehicles for ministers, state ministers and deputy ministers. Numbers revealed in the House also put former President Maithripala Sirisena on the top of the list, making him the biggest spender of public finances on luxury vehicles with a sum of 328.9 million rupees. Former Secretary to the Ministry of Parliamentary Reforms and Mass Media, Nimal Bopage, says on top of the vehicles imported at a cost of 2.8 billion rupees, the Cabinet gave the green light to rent 58 vehicles for MPs of the government from a private firm towards the back end of 2016. He added that he objected to the move as the government was on the verge of losing 44.3 billion rupees. Bopage also noted that he was summoned to the Cabinet Committee on Economic Management led by then Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe and was publicly threatened by Wickremesinghe to either sign or resign. Now, in the meantime, the leader of the United National Party, Ranil Wickremesinghe, suggests demanding compensation from aircraft manufacturer Airbus over the bribery saga. He made these comments while attending a ceremony in Colombo.
ඇත්ත වශයෙන්ම අපි දැනගන්න ලැබුණේ 2016 අපේ අපරාධ පරීක්ෂක දෙපාර්තමේන්තුව මේ ගැන සොයා බලන්න පටන් ගත්තා. ඒත් මේ නම් හේම අපිට ඒවල ලැබිලා තිබුණේ නැහැ. මේ කරුණ අපිට ලැබුණේ 2019 වර්ෂයේ. සිංගප්පූරුවෙන් ඇත්ත වශයෙන්ම මේ කරුණ අපිට ඔක්කොම ලැබුණේ නොවැම්බර් මාසේ පළවෙනි සතිය අවසන් 7 වෙනිදා 8 වෙනිදා ලැබුණේ. ඒ කාලෙදි ඡන්දයක් තිබුණා. නීතිපති ක්‍රියා කළා කිව්වා එනම් පුද්ගලයන් කීප දෙනෙක් රට යන එක නවත්තන්න කියලා. ඇත්තට අපේ ආණ්ඩුවකට අපේ යුතුයකම ඉෂ්ට කරා. මොකද මෙතන සඳහන් කරලා තියෙන්නේ ඩොලර් කෝටි 160ක් අපිට එතන ලැබුණා කියලා කොමිස් එක. මෙතන තියෙන්නේ ඩොලර් ලක්ෂ 20යි. ඉතුරු ඒවට මොකද්ද සිදුුනේ කියලා අපි විශේෂයෙන් ඒ ගැන හොයලා බලන්න තිබෙනවා. මේ නිසා ශ්‍රී ලංකන් ගුවන් සේවයේ අලාභය වැඩි වුණා. ඒ වගේම අපේ යුතුයකමක් තියෙනවා. දැන් එයාබස් සමාගමට විරුද්ධව නඩු දාලා අපිත් වන්දියක් ලබා ගන්න. ඒ බය නැතුව ඒක කරන්න ඕනේ. ඒත් අපිට දැන් තියෙන අපේ අතේ තියෙන ආයුධය.
Now, the world's biggest economy, China, battling the novel coronavirus, the country, amid saving lives of the people, makes attempts to save the falling economy. China has allocated $9.56 billion for the prevention of the novel coronavirus and controlled by Thursday. Now, since the outbreak, the Ministry of Finance has rolled out a series of fiscal policy measures under the strong leadership of the party's Central Committee and the State Council. In terms of policy measures, the Ministry of Finance and other relevant departments had introduced more than 10 fiscal and tax policy measures by February 6th for the fight against the epidemic. Now, the Reserve Bank of Australia, meanwhile, has said that they believe that international spillovers resulting from the novel coronavirus would be larger than they were back in 2003 with SARS. State media of Vietnam, meanwhile, says that the coronavirus epidemic in China could wipe $5.9 billion to $7.7 billion from the country's tourism earnings in the next 3 months as international travelers stay away from the region. The tourism sector estimated to see 2 million fewer Chinese visitors due to the coronavirus. We'll see you again after this break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. This is First at 9. A soldier has gone on a shooting rampage across several locations in Korat of northeastern Thailand. The gunman used a machine gun and shot innocent victims, killing as many as 12 people. The killer opened fire at the Terminal 21 building in the city of Korat shortly after 6 p.m. The gunman, identified by police as a sergeant major, stole an army vehicle and also posted photos and videos of himself in full tactical gear as the attack in Korat was carried out. Video and photos circulating online showed panicked scenes with people fleeing and what appeared to be the sound of automatic gunfire filling the air. Police said that they have sealed off the Terminal 21 shopping centre but have yet to capture the gunman. Now, US President Donald Trump's impeachment trial may be over, but the drama continues as President Trump has dismissed 2 senior officials who testified against him at his impeachment trial. The Trump administration fired US Ambassador to the European Union Gordon Sondland and Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman, who was also removed from a White House position.
In an accelerating assault on Donald Trump's critics since his impeachment acquittal, the Trump administration fired Ambassador to the European Union Gordon Sondland shortly after removing Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman from his White House post. Both Sondland and Vindman delivered damaging testimony during the impeachment trial in defiance of Trump. Sondland communicated directly with Trump as he pressured Ukraine to undertake investigations that could boost the president's re-election prospects next year. Sondland said that Trump did not tell him specifically what he wanted Kyiv to investigate, but directed him to work with Trump's personal attorney Rudy Giuliani, who did not have an official role with the US government.
Was there a quid pro quo? As I testified previously, with regard to the requested White House call and the White House meeting, the answer is yes.
President Donald Trump, however, rejected the claim.
I say to the ambassador in response, I want nothing. I want nothing. I want no quid pro quo. Tell Zelensky, President Zelensky, to do the right thing. So here's my answer. I want nothing.
Meanwhile, Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, a key witness who recently testified against Trump's efforts in Ukraine, was removed from his White House job as a top Ukraine expert on the National Security Council. In its historic vote, the Senate decided not to remove America's 45th president from office on charges relating to abuse of powers and obstruction of Congress. Trump is said to desire a staff shakeup after senators cleared him in the impeachment.
That's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.